Hello. Hi.
So, relationships are hard, and sobriety is hard. It goes without saying that sober relationships are probably really hard, right? Or relationships in sobriety are extra hard. Well, what about when the dynamic shifts? Like when one partner is sober and the other one isn't? Or when neither partner is sober? Yikes. Or maybe not yikes. Luckily, I have the pleasure of having on a very special guest today who's going to answer some of your burning questions about sober relationships, non sober relationships, and everything in between. We're going to be spilling all of the tea, including how to manage a partnership when one person is sober and the other person is not, how long somebody should wait until they get into a relationship after getting sober, and what to do if you can't stop judging your partner. So make sure to stay tuned until the very end. This is going to be a good one. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Young, Dumb, and Sober, the channel where I low-key, high-key try to convince you that being sober is better than being high or drunk. I'm Allie, the creator and host of Young, Dumb, and Sober, if you don't already know. And I would love, 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 love if you hit the subscribe button on this channel, hit the bell, slap that bell, so you know every time I upload new content. All right, house cleaning is done. Let's get to the show, guys. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce everybody to our guest, Amy Guerrero from Thrive in Recovery with Amy. Hi, Amy.
Hi, what up? How are you? It's so good to be here.
Good to see you. Welcome to Young, Dumb, and Sober.
Thank you. I'm really so excited to be here. Like all morning, I've been looking forward to being here.
Me too. I kind of was telling my viewers a little bit about sober relationships, non-sober relationships, semi-sober relationships, and how you're kind of like the expert on that stuff. So can you tell us a little bit about your background and your history with that and just like a foundation of your knowledge?
So I've been studying relationships since I was a little kid. I was just fascinated with how people relate to each other. And so much so that when I was really little, when we had lemonade stands, they would call me Lucy from the Peanuts cartoon because I was always giving people advice and not just slinging lemonade.
Right.
I was like, what are you all about? Like studying behaviors. And, I knew that how we relate to one thing is how we relate to everything. And choosing to be a conscious, sober woman, it upped my freaking ante of everything in my life, right? I used something between me and the world for so long that I was like, this is a jam. The thing that took me out so many different times when I was on this journey to live a conscious, sober lifestyle was relationships. Like my heart would ache and I'd be like, oh, I went to the first thing that I knew worked. Not because I thought it was a good idea, just because I knew it worked.
Yeah.
And I feel so committed to helping people have thriving relationships in all areas of their sober life. It's so important.
Absolutely. Any of the times that I went back out was tied to a relationship.
So yes, we're unique in the fact that we choose to not put shit in our body anymore. However, this is a human experience. So I really want to take it back to exactly what you said. Like I use drugs and alcohol to put something between me and the world because no one taught me how to process my emotions. They worked for a really long time and I had a lot of fun. So what we're talking about here is a real human experience. And I think we're rock stars because we choose to do this shit sober.
Fuck yeah. Each of these three dynamics that we're looking at. So fully sober relationship where both partners are sober. What does that kind of look like to you in your experience? Like had those relationships before, but they've been pretty much dysfunctional for me every single time.
Yeah. And I love that you just said that because there's this idea that if two people are sober, that they're going to have this like, the clouds are going to part and like everything's going to be done.
Right.
And for me and the work that I do, I know that unless both people are willing to do their trauma work, these relationships can be the most explosive. What I love is that there is this idea in the rooms or however people recover that like, oh, but they're sober. And I'm like, have they done their deeper work? Do they go to fellowship meetings but haven't worked the steps? Do they do all the things, but then every time that you go to that place, they're like, don't touch that. Let's just fuck, right? Instead, I remember one time I woke up when I was living in sober living and there was people having sex in the bed next to me. And I was so fucking furious because I was like, this is not recovery. It's just not. Because when we're on the discovery process of recovery, two sober people do not mean healthy, functional relationship.
That's that on period.
And a willingness. Like, I will never sit here and tell you that like I'm recovered, because
Right.
I've got trauma that's like ancestral, and I'm clear about that.
Yeah.
However, like I'm on a discovery process that I'm willing to be on for the rest of the time that I'm in this body. And I
Mm.
want to have fun while I'm doing it.
Yeah.
So, when people are like, I only date sober people, I'm like, okay. And what do those people need to have, or what are your non-negotiables with those people?
Mhm.
And what I find over and over and over again, especially since I've been on Clean and Sober Love for the last over a year now, is that people have no idea what they want. And so I love that we're defining these different things, because maybe it'll open your mind to like, what is it that I want? If you're listening or watching right now,
Right.
we get to make choices, and we reserve the right to change our mind at any time. Like that's one of the biggest freedoms.
As a Libra, I really love you giving me permission to change my mind at any given moment. It's like we have these preconceived notions about what a sober relationship will look like if you're sober and the person's sober. Oh, first of all, there's no guarantee that either of you stay sober. And second of all, I mean, that can be, like both of us just said, a trigger to go back into it. And I was one of those people who was like, I would never, ever, ever date somebody who drinks or uses drugs, even recreationally. Even if somebody never had a substance abuse issue, I was just like, I wouldn't be able to do it, because I wouldn't be able to handle being around somebody who can have one beer and I can't. And like now I'm in a relationship just like that. And it's the healthiest one I've ever been in. Perspectives change and our experience kind of shift the way that we look at things. But until we start actually understanding these different definitions and what they can look like in reality versus like what's going on in our head, we don't really know. What about a non-sober relationship? Because it's also easy to say the flip side of two people aren't sober. That's also disastrous.
Again, it all comes down to those original incidents, the patterns that we create to survive
Mhm.
as humans. When we create a pattern when we're young and it gets ingrained in our body, our mind, our soul, like wired into us, then we go and we repeat that pattern over and over and over again. I've had lots of super fun, passionate, amazing relationships in my life. And, they were built a lot on connection through a substance or through a behavior that wasn't necessarily meeting my highest and best good. However, it was fun.
Right.
When they're explosive and disastrous, are you willing to repair?
Mhm.
What I heard you say with Petra on one of your videos is that, we can talk about it and we can philosophize about it and, write a story about it all day long. But until your nervous system is actually living those experiences, then everything changes. And that's the work that I do with people. I'm like, we got to go fuck some shit up together.
Yes,
And do it in a safe container of mentorship so that you feel safe to do it and know that you can come back and be like, oh my gosh, it was a total mess. And I'll teach you how to repair it in a healthy way.
right.
And that's what, that exploratory process that you and Petra have been on has been about. It's like, ooh, I didn't like it when you went out with your friends afterwards because I felt left out. And I didn't know I was going to have that physical response.
Yeah.
And I did. And it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay for you to feel whatever you're feeling.
Absolutely. It's like that hands-on experience. Even if you're looking at it from a job perspective, you can train in something for however long you want to train in it, but until you're doing it, you're still going to be a novice. And with Petra, it's been like a very, very interesting ride for me, because I've had to go against what I used to do, express these really, really uncomfortable emotions, jealousy or just insecurity. And in the past, I haven't felt safe doing that. So to do it now, it's just so new, but it's also scary. So this is what goes on in real life. This is what happens like when you're doing the real stuff. It's intense, but it's also, lovely and beautiful and all that other stuff too, even though it's terrifying.
When we choose differently, our nervous system, remember I was talking about that wired response we have.
Yes.
So when we choose differently, then the nervous system is just like, it's just turning on. And so maybe it's not terrifying. You're just like, oh my gosh, I'm doing something new. And so the body's just having its natural response.
Right.
To doing something new. And so I just really want everyone to hear that, because let yourself off the fucking hook.
Yeah.
It's like, is it terrifying? Or, I'll preface it so often. COVID has brought so many people into my life that it's just been amazing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I get to show up different to this relationship than I ever thought I would. Our lives are so short, and to have fun and to have play is everything. And with that, the reward to being so vulnerable is better sex all day long.
All night long, all week long if you're quarantined.
Exactly.
Now, what about like semi-sober relationships? And just in case anybody who's watching doesn't know, Petra is my partner. We've been together for 6 months, and she is not sober. She's also not an addict or an alcoholic, but she does drink, I would say socially. I don't. I've been sober for like 3 years. So that's kind of what we're deeming a semi-sober relationship in this context.
I really stay away from labels, right? So people will often say like, I'm with a normie, and I'm like, I don't, that word really bothers me on many levels, especially from the trauma informed work I do. I'm just like, what the fuck is normal?
Yeah.
You know, it's just not necessary to say. So I just want to give context to people that are listening that they might say that, right? Like, oh, I date a normie. So that's what we mean by semi-sober relationships. And again, it goes back to those root cause things, right? Like, are you willing to do your work? Are you willing to have the hard conversation? And in my experience, I'll be honest, like I see the most functionality in those relationships. Now, when people stick to labels, I'm this and you're that, I'm the addict, you're the normal person, you've got to go to this kind of support group, I have to go to that kind of support group, and they put all these rules on it. What happened? What do rules do to us? I mean, I'm defiant by nature, and I love that part of my personality.
Right.
And it, you know, it kept me alive when I was trying to kill myself, period. However, if I just like say like, oh, we have to work within the structure of this relationship, if we keep it loose, then that's where we can create flexibility and fluid, and it's going to be okay. However, you have to be willing to talk about the stuff.
Like if you're within these strict limitations, you're kind of holding each other back in a sense, right?
Absolutely. And with all of these types of relationships, right? Like when I hear myself say never or only, I call myself out so fast because I'm just like, I don't know. I haven't tried it yet.
Right.
And I'm willing to try anything. Obviously, I've tried so much, you know, and I just choose to do it through the sober lens now. Right. I'm just like, yes. And I won't do it with a substance in my body because like, that's just not how I roll anymore.
Right.
No, I think it's about that flexibility. It's about that fluidity. And that's really scary for people, you know, and I really want to honor that. Scary to not have structure, especially because the way that we've been conditioned in our world, that the way that we get sober, right? There was nothing until there was 12 steps.
Right.
And that is a very rigid program. And we've been repeating the same phrases since the 30s.
Right.
And, you know, when I ask someone, like, is that actually true for you? There's always a pause. I'm like, really, in your body, does that feel true to you? And they're like, actually, no, but I'm afraid to say it. And that's okay. And so when we explore these different ideas of sober relationships, it's like, well, let's go back to you. Like, what's okay with you? I don't mind making out with somebody who tastes like wine. It doesn't bother me, you know, it doesn't trigger me, but for someone else it might. And that's okay too.
Yeah.
Right. Like what I'm really saying here is it's all okay. It's really going back to yourself and exploring that. And that's been your progression, right? Where you were like, I will only do this. And now you're like, wow, this actually works and feels really good.
Even with the kind of like tasting alcohol on somebody, I've noticed that I've made limitations for the sake of making limitations because it's something that's been echoed to me by somebody else. Like in the beginning, when her and I first started dating, I would be like, you know, like I don't really want to like kiss you or make out with you if you have been drinking. But now we have non-alcoholic beers together. She still smells and tastes like beer, but all of a sudden I'm okay with it. So it's like, I think back to what my reasoning was prior to that. Was it that I was nervous about smelling or tasting beer, or was it because I felt some type of way that she was able, or she had permission to go somewhere else and I didn't? It kind of needed to evolve so I can say, it's not the taste, it's not the smell, it's not the beer, it's not any of that. I don't like the fact that you're on a different plane than I am when we're being intimate. So it's just these developments that just like come up over time, and like you think that it's one thing and then some things happen and you're like, that's not what the fuck it was at all. Like I was completely off.
Well, and I want to just invite everyone to listen to what you just said. And if you have to rewind it, y'all rewind it, because what you said is that you were willing to look what was underneath. You made it like this thing that you've heard other people say at first, like, well, that's just not right. And I'm not going to do it.
Right.
Then you were like, I'm a little bit jealous that you get to check out and I don't.
Yes.
And like, that's what's underneath it. Yeah. And then like, why does that bother you? Well, maybe it's even deeper than that. And I'll invite you that it is. Yeah. That's the work I do with people. Cause I'm like, oh, there's actually even something underneath there. And that's okay. It's okay. You know, we'll talk about this more when we talk about sex, but you know, the idea of open relationships and all of these things, it's like, there's so many different ways to live.
Yeah.
And it all comes back to like, what feels good for you, it's safe for you.
You did mention patterns. I know that's a word for you, I feel.
I mean, I can talk about patterns for like 2 million hours. So yeah, let's talk about patterns, and I'll just put it in the most simple way. You know, if how we relate to one thing is how we relate to everything, we create these patterns when we're really tiny people. And we create these patterns by looking at the bigger people is how I put it, right? Like the adults in our life, and they're doing things. And so we create patterns to survive.
Yeah.
And we repeat those patterns over and over and over and over and over again. We learn new things. Those core patterns are with you from childhood. We all have different attachment styles, and that's where we create the patterns from. And, we can go deeper into it every episode, but long story short is there's a secure attachment style, a anxious or ambivalent attachment style, a avoidant attachment style. And then there's the disorganized, the come here, go away.
Right.
That's me. And we're all working to be secure. And we also create patterns from these styles. And we repeat them over and over and over again. But when you understand this in a relationship, y'all,
yeah.
Talk about coming closer and just going, oh, wow, I can really see you're activated in your avoidance right now. Let's come back, take a break. There's just this really beautiful compassion. Oh, your little person needs some attention right now.
Right.
Or I need to get the fuck away from you because your avoidance really up.
Yeah.
All okay. And if we understand this and drop the labels, again, freedom.
Freedom. It's the name of the game.
That's the freaking name. I did not get sober to have miserable relationships because I know, I can remember when I was like contemplating my relationship with sobriety and I would do 30 days, but then my partner at the time, many of them would come home, fucked up, and I would wake up out of a dead sleep and start blowing lines at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
I was like, the things that I was willing to do for connection.
Yes.
And all based out of my pattern of like, if I don't do this, you're going to go away. So I'm disorganized, but I lean on the anxious side. So I'm just consistently scared that people are going to leave me.
Yeah.
And it's a root thing because my mom left when I was barely born,
Right.
So, again, deeper.
It's interesting that you bring up the attachment styles because when we first started dating, we took this little quiz and Petra got secure attachment and I got anxious, which I didn't need a fucking test to tell me that. But so it kind of like sets you up with which animal you are. And it gave her like a Labrador and it gave me this neurotic bunny. This is accurate on many levels. Oh, so this is why I view things in this way and you view things in this other way. It's because, we're different and we had very, very different experiences growing up. I also dealt with that kind of abandonment from my father at a very, very young age. He was a heroin addict, so he left when I was younger. And then it's been therapy and sobriety and working through kind of unlearning that people are always going to leave. And it also took being with several people who did leave because either I chose people who were going to no matter what, or because I pushed them away. So it's all of this stuff is just, it's deep, it's down there, but it's not like we can't access it. It might be a little bit scary, but it's also kind of exciting. I have been trying to tell myself the same, correct me if I'm wrong, the like physiological response is probably very similar to just being excited. So I'm like, no, you're not anxious. You're excited. You're pumped. You want to do this. Just this pivot,
It's just a reframe, a pivot.
Yes.
And so let's just take what you just said. Thank you for sharing that because freaking brilliant. And what you just said is the whole thing. It, is a sober relationship worth it? Is a sober, non-sober relationship, like that, is that going to be the golden ticket? Is the semi-sober? Is just fuck it. Like, I'm just not going to be sober and I'm just going to use for the rest of my life. Well, what really, really matters is taking quizzes like that and knowing that she came from a secure attachment, which is like annoying as fuck. I'm like, where do you people come from?
I literally said that. I was like, how dare you be the Labrador? Like, what?
But thank God, right? Because we can be the Labradors too. Right? When we learn to shift the idea that we used to call it anxiety, now we call it exhilaration, excitement, whatever, and you really make that your way of life, then you shift to secure.
Yeah.
And you have access to that at any time.
That's awesome.
That's the whole jam.
Yeah. Why do you think it is that there is that kind of preconceived notion that a relationship where one partner is sober and the other one isn't, even if they don't even have a history of substance abuse, why do people immediately think that it's not going to work out?
So let's be really gentle with this, because people out there might get activated. When it comes down to it, the human experience is that if something isn't like us, then it's wrong and it's scary. And maybe that's been conditioned in some of the followers and some of the listeners for their whole life. And it's not necessarily true. Right. However, the first thing to do, people are like, oh, I don't judge anything. I'm like, that's just a fucking lie. I do my best and I still judge things. That's
Right.
just the way that our brains work. The nervous system is designed to keep us safe and alive, period. More alive even than safe. So it's going to judge things. It's going to say, ooh, is this right or wrong? And it feels safest to make it black and white.
Yes.
And that's a trauma response.
Mm.
That is emotional trauma response, period. You know, it's safer if it's black, if it's white. And when we stay curious, we take risks, because I'm like, ooh, I call it the play area instead of the gray area.
I
I'm
love
like,
that.
oh, that's a play area. Are you willing to go there? Yeah, and let's play with it, because
Yeah.
it's gonna, your nervous system's gonna be like, this is not right. And then somebody in the background is gonna be like, oh, I cannot believe you're dating somebody who drinks. Like, just wait. In 6 months, we're all going to see you announcing yourself as a newcomer. And I mean, I hear people say that to one another, and I'm like, that is so uncompassionate. And who are you to be telling someone else? And the thing that sucks is that often people live into that experience because it's been conditioned somehow.
Right.
And that's not how it has to be. When someone comes at me with their stuff,
Yeah.
I'm compassionate. I'm like, oh, I can really see that you're activated by that.
Right. Right.
I'm not. Like, and that's okay. We can still be friends. There is some truth in the biology and the chemistry of the honeymoon phase, right? So it's about 18 months. And be in this play area and having those tougher conversations, so that when those chemicals start to kind of wear off, then we're really in the play area. Like, how can we bring those back? Because dang, I want to feel that, you know? I was talking to someone the other day. I talk a lot about orgasm, and, you know, I was like, that doesn't have to stop.
Right.
You know, like, having that orgasmic lifestyle is what we can do, because dang, like, we choose to do the sober. So let's have lots of pleasure.
Yes. An orgasmic lifestyle. That needs to be a tagline for something.
It's just like, let's make it one. The sober orgasmic lifestyle.
You know, like you said, like, we all judge. Whether or not we want to admit it is beyond the point, but it does happen, you know, and with substances, it just adds that extra layer to it.
So here's my suggestion always is, what if you just say it? I don't really mind that you drink, and I find myself getting really irritated and annoyed, and that's my stuff to figure out. And, you know, maybe we can have a conversation about it so that we talk about this.
Right.
Because, you know, what I often ask people, why are you choosing to put alcohol or, you know, something in your body right now? They don't like me when I ask them that question.
It's very uncomfortable.
It's really uncomfortable. And I'm like, I don't care.
Right.
And they really can feel that I don't care.
Right.
It's just asking them. I was on vacation not too long ago with someone who was like, I'm not gonna put anything in my body. And I'm like, okay, awesome. Like, you don't have to though. I don't care.
Right.
And then, like, halfway through the first 24 hours is like, I gotta take a Vicodin. And I like, I'm in a lot of pain or something. And I'm like, okay, one thing I'm just gonna ask is, are you in a lot of pain, or was it just like too long without being altered? There was a pause. I don't care.
Right.
However, if I choose, for me, you know, intimacy and sex, I still don't know. Like, sometimes I'm like, oh, you're too far gone. Like, I don't like this.
Yeah.
I feel like you're stale, or you're not there.
Yeah.
And you're a ghost of who you are. And I remember that deeply. So yes, it does activate something inside my nervous system of when I was just like flinging my body around without any sense of where I was, especially high on cocaine. I mean, come on, like, whew, champagne and cocaine and naked everywhere. Like, yes, I've got a lot of experience with that. Right. So it's this testing out process.
Right.
Like, what works, what doesn't. And judgment doesn't have to be a bad word.
Right.
You know, I was talking to somebody the other day, and we were talking about like using recreationally. He was like, well, let's break that down. It's recreate. And I'm like, yeah, it totally is. I mean, I use sugar recreationally.
Yeah.
Just to remind myself what it's like.
That's how I'm going to describe my relationship with caffeine from now on.
You're seeing how you can recreate Allie.
Yeah, that's it. Recreationally drinking 5 Red Bulls in a row. It's completely normal.
No judgment.
Like, being afraid to ask that question because I didn't want to come off as better than, or like I had a chip on my shoulder, or pretentious, or especially because spirituality is usually so tied to sobriety. So it's kind of like, oh, you think you're some fucking enlightened being because you don't get high? Good job. It's like, for me to ask Petra, or anybody for that matter, so why do you drink? Not why do you drink, but why do you drink? Like, because everybody has a reason for drinking, not just addicts. To ask it felt very like, I felt like I was attacking when I knew that wasn't my intention. I want to ask this, but if I was in her shoes and somebody asked me that, I'd be like, fuck you, dude. It's none of your fucking business.
Well, it is your business if you're in a relationship with them.
Right.
And if you're only listening and you're not watching, just watching your body language when you ask like, why are you drinking? Or hey,
Yeah.
I'm really curious, like, why are you choosing to have a few glasses of wine tonight? Tell me more about it.
Right.
Like, that's so different. That's compassionate and clear and energetically open.
Yes.
Energy is so important. That's what makes all those chemicals. Like, as soon as you and I got on the other day, I was like, yes, like, I totally want to do as much as possible with you. Like, there's just like an awesome energy. We try to make that wrong too. We judge that. And sometimes I'll meet someone and I'm like, you ain't my people.
Yep.
And that's okay.
Right.
And it does take practice. It takes practice in messing it up.
When I do get that kind of, visceral reaction to somebody else's energy upon meeting them, like, it's okay to not vibe with every single person that I meet. It would be kind of silly to expect myself to connect with everybody I meet on this really intimate kind of connected level.
Yeah. And let's just I love young, dumb, and sober.
Yeah.
So how often do we ignore what we know?
Yeah.
And then make ourselves wrong for it.
Right.
And who are we judging? The most important person in our freaking life, ourselves. The more that you follow that intuitive, like, oh, I need to pause and recreate, right? Like, I'm not sure if this is safe. Like, that's
right.
Your body. Just times when I have forced myself to stay in relationships, absolutely freaking forced myself. I knew it wasn't the right thing.
Yep.
I knew halfway into like a sexual, encounter with I have a lot of experience, and I've been in a big room of a lot of naked people going, this isn't safe for me. But I kept going, put more stuff in my body to make it safe. And how many people have done that? And, it comes down to, are we willing to trust what we know?
Right.
And that's the discovery process of consciousness. That's sober.
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
I just went deep, y'all.
Yeah. We got bold. We got deep. We recreated. Like, we did it all. I noticed myself so many times, like, in the beginning, having this, wait a minute, kind of like what you were talking about earlier in the video, like, how does that feel in your body? But not having someone like you, or not having someone outside of that little bubble to talk about, hey, I didn't really like the way that interaction made me feel. Because, if you're in a room of people who all believe the same exact thing, they're all going to tell you the same exact thing. There's still something to say for your gut feeling and, your intuition, your knowing.
Your freaking compass.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember the first time that, like, maybe not the first time, but I have a very visceral response of the first time I felt wrong in my family system. From a little kid, and I was a little redheaded stepchild in the sense, like, my family was darker than me, and
yeah,
I was like the white girl in the Mexican family, but I'm Mexican, and I just remember feeling so fucking isolated and so alone. Not everyone wants to be that awake.
Fair.
And that's totally okay with me too.
Right.
It's safer to be conditioned than it is to be awake. And that's a bold statement. And it's just so true. And I'll piss a lot of people off when I say that stuff. And I don't judge you.
Right.
I just choose to keep discovering shit. I'm not saying it's all right either. I don't know. I'm just willing to discover it.
Right. Like, you can do your thing over there, but, like, do you. I'm doing me.
Exactly. Yeah.
Do you think that there's a timeline for after somebody gets sober, if they should wait a certain amount of time until they enter into a romantic relationship, or is it more so along the lines of, the work they should do until?
Yeah, that's a really great question.
Like, usually in early recovery, people want to jump into relationships. I know for me, it was because I lost my girlfriend drugs. I lost my girlfriend alcohol. So now I want my girlfriend. You know what I mean?
Totally. Yeah. And your body's turning on in different ways, depending on what your DOC was, right? It's like, people want to have pleasure, have an orgasmic lifestyle, but not necessarily with a healthy intention.
Right.
For all things that make them. The thing is, like, a year. And if we take that into the biology and the chemistry of what's happening in our bodies in that year, all of it makes a little bit of sense. However, again, it's your internal compass.
Right.
We heal in relationships, y'all. So I really want to be clear about that. Trauma, original incidents, all the things that we're talking about here that led us to escaping with behaviors that didn't serve us. Well, that did and then didn't, right? That's all healed through relationships and play. There was a guy that I had a crush on the very last treatment center that I went to, and it was very innocent and awesome. However, like, he helped me understand things about myself that I really needed to understand so that I could bring Thrive in Recovery with Amy to the world.
Yeah.
And to this day, like, I wasn't distracted with them also because like the sixth time I'd been to treatment, or seventh or eighth, I don't know. And it was supportive to my process. And the counselors and stuff left us alone because they could see that there was a healthy dynamic to it.
Yes.
Like they totally knew. We didn't even like make out or anything. We held hands every once in a while. There was like this fun tension that was there that I got to explore without going further. It was just like this thing.
Yeah.
And it was very supportive to the last time I went to treatment ever, right? And hopefully ever. Yeah. I can't make any of that wrong. I do not believe that there's like a certain amount of time.
No. It's back to there's no black and white, you know?
Exactly.
Because if you have the love of your life and you happen to only be 2 weeks sober, there's no saying how it's going to unravel itself. And just like you and Petra have done, create a safe container. That's the most important thing. And it takes support from someone who's been there before. So something that, you know, I'm actually have a workshop this weekend on April 18th that I talk about this so much, like look for mentor couples, look for, you know, read books that show you what's possible, right? Ask them for support, or have someone like me in your life that doesn't just support the person, but supports the relationship as well. I've been studying this stuff since forever. In college, that's what I focused on. Right. Was communication in relationships. And we try to just glob it all into one thing and make these rules and make this judgment. And if you do that, then you're going to do this. And what happens? We do it. Why? Because we were told again and again and again and again and again. That's what's going to happen. The defiant one in me is like, if you tell me that again, I'm going to fucking do it. And I would do it on purpose. Almost, you know, just to defy something. Yeah, I mean, I have some issues with authority myself. I like that you said the idea of having a couple mentor, because like almost like going back into the beginning, our parents were our first mentors as a couple. And like if that was unhealthy or just not the best way to learn how to do relationships, then obviously we need to look to other people to kind of redo it and relearn it. So I just love that. Often what I find in the people that I support and you and a lot of in the LGBTQ plus community as well, is that we're the first people to do things different. So we are the transitional characters in our family, in our lineage, that have ever attempted to do these things. So there are no mentors. You know, when I was even in like 5th grade was the first time that a teacher told me like, you're a pioneer for your family. 5th grade. And I was like, I am. I didn't know what that meant at the time. And I am. You know, first Mexican girl to not get pregnant in ever. I've never been pregnant, right? To have a whole different way of living, to choose to get sober, to, you know, choose to live in California away from my family. Like on so many levels, I'm a transitional character and I have to find mentors to support me through that process, because I've never been to the places that I choose to go still, right? I'm still looking. I had a call with someone this morning. I'm like, I need help. I want to go to this place. Like, can you support me to get there? Because I want to show this to my clients. Right. I'm on to something. Yeah. You know, help me get there faster, please. Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love that. It's just kind of like remaining teachable in a sense. 100%. And that's what the journey through consciousness and sobriety is. Right. You know? Yeah. It's like new level, new double, one of my mentors says, and it's so fucking true. I'm like, oh shit, here I am. And all of my childhood stuff is back. Right. Hello again. Yeah. So how do you think that people can best manage discomfort in a sober relationship? That's a really great question. So, you know, it's coming back to understanding, in my opinion, like the nervous system is everything. And we're so quick to stay in our mind. And as someone who's been teaching yoga and practicing yoga for over 20 years, like the somatics of your body matter so much. So my invitation always is like, come back to the fact that you're just a human being having a human experience, and you're not an addict, an alcoholic, and a this or that. Like, just drop the labels for a second and just be like, oh, I can't breathe right now, and I think I'm gonna die or explode or something. Yeah. And just come back to that. Like, it's okay. So how do you manage the discomfort? Remember that you're an animal. You're a human fucking being. Right. And it's okay to lose your breath. It's okay to be confused, you know? And where do we have to come back to? We have to come back to our bodies. Absolutely.
Like our bodies are so important. And especially in the early recovery process, it's like, I got to figure out all this stuff. I got to learn these books. I got to memorize all these prayers. I got to say all these statements all up here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, drop into your body.
Yeah.
Drop into your body. And that's what the pleasure is.
Right.
We don't have pleasure up here. It's freaking hell up here for me.
I certainly don't.
Yeah,
I do not. No way. I'm like a very, very cerebral person, and it's been like so difficult for me to learn how to go into my body and feel those things, because I like to intellectualize everything, even in recovery, even in sobriety, even spirituality. I still kind of want to quantify it in some way, shape, or form, and even relationships. So it's in the occasions that I am able to, and yoga has been probably the number one thing that allowed me to do that. It's been enlightening. It's been like, what? That kind of like, this is what's going on. Or maybe not up here, it's down here. But, oh, okay, so this is what it feels like to be in my body. Yeah. It's kind of nice when I let it happen.
And, that's one of my gifts, is that I have been in my body for a really long time. And even as a little kid, I remember telling my doctor, like, just touch me. Like, can't you just feel that? And like, it's just in a place where I love to play.
Right.
And so one of the first things that I get like emotional when I talk about this, because just hearing you say that, I'm just like, oh girl, yes, come to your body. And it's scary because it's a whole different experience. And it makes everything real, and you start feeling more. And then there's a whole nother layer of like, then you have to learn how to protect your energy and all these things. So it's like, start slow. Right. And I just tell people, like, just remind yourself you have one.
Right. Little tap.
Like tap. Yeah. When I'm having a difficult conversation, you'll often see me like moving my arms a little bit, because I'm just like, I'm here. Because I can easily become the fucking chair. Just be like a talking head. Yeah. Right. And my commitment to you and to the people that I serve is like, I will stay in this body and I will be here now.
Absolutely.
I will not be distracted with what's coming next. I want to like serve you and what you have going on. And so that's the thing to manage the discomfort, is to remember that you're just having a central nervous system response to something new.
Right.
And that is the most basic form of life. Tap on the desk and the spider runs. The spider's like, I just need to stay alive. It's the same thing with us.
Yeah. See that? We're all spiders too.
Yeah, exactly.
Full circle. Well, I've loved having this conversation. It's been super fun for me, and I know that my viewers are going to get a lot out of it as well. So I just want to thank you for taking the time to come on and talk to me about sober relationships and patterns and Labrador retrievers and and orgasms and all the things, because it's been amazing. And we're going to do 3 more videos kind of building off these topics, and with the finale talking about sober sex, which everybody wants to know about. So I'm really looking forward to our next conversation, and I'll be posting the schedule for the other videos in the coming days. So keep your eyes peeled for that. And thank you again, Amy. Can you tell everybody where they can find you on social?
Yeah, at Thrive in Recovery with Amy.
Perfect.
Super easy. Yeah, and then just tag me in all the stuff, and I'll do the same. Yeah.
Nice. All right. Thank you so much, Amy.
Thank you. This is so fun.
All right. I can't wait to talk again.
Me too.
All right. Okay, guys, so that's been the show. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Amy. I know I did. I didn't expect to get that deep with it, but when in sobriety, we are going to be doing a series of videos about sober relationships and things related to this topic. So you can look out for 3 more videos coming in the upcoming weeks. Definitely go follow Amy on her Instagram, which is Thrive in Recovery with Amy, and also subscribe to this channel. Hit the bell so that you get notifications every time you upload new content, every time I upload new content, not you. Unless you also upload content, then maybe I'll hit the bell on your channel. Do you have any questions for Amy about sober relationships? If so, drop a comment below. Okay, guys, it's been real, it's been fun, and it's been real fun.